Hey everyone. So it's been a very long time since I made my first and most recent video. Primarily because I've been very busy and I'm very lazy, both of which are a very bad combination. But I am making a video now. So since last time, nothing's really happened. Things have kind of taken a backbench, honestly. I'm currently sort of agonizing over pursuing legal name change, which is pretty expensive here, honestly, for what it is. And I've still got sort of weird kind of underlying, like internalized shit about betraying my family and all of that sort of shit, which I honestly think they wouldn't be putting that pressure on me. It's me putting that pressure on myself. But that's something that I still kind of have to work through at the moment. I go by Bridge Michael Patrick pretty much everywhere now, honestly, aside from on any actual legal documentation, which is probably the main place that it counts, honestly. But everyone who matters to me knows me as Bridge, which is, wonderful. Regarding medical transition, uni is going back next week, and there is a very wonderful informed consent trans friendly doctor on campus. So I'm most likely going to look at going to her. And she can essentially do much of the process without referral, as far as I'm aware. So that is exactly what I've been looking for. So I'll let everyone know how that goes when I get to her. That it'll have to wait till after I'm back from my trip. I'm going over east to Mardi Gras next week. But once I'm back from that, that's probably going to be what I'm looking at. But the main point of this video update is to discuss a little bit about how I ended up so far away from the city and how this whole thing happened. So I'm not going to go into too many details of like actual specifics because legally I've been informed there's certain things that I'm not allowed to discuss regarding my ex-partner, but I will give a bit of a sort of overview. So just from this point on, content warning for physical and sexual assault, transphobia, and probably some other things that I will add in the description of the video when I think of them, but those are probably the main ones. So I was with a man for 3 years and we were very, very serious. We got engaged. He was very anti-trans, and not, the weird thing about it was he had many transgender friends and in theory was very supportive. But despite the fact that I was very open with him from the beginning about the fact that I was gender fluid, which I'm now leaning more masc, but still am pretty fluid, he was very, very adamant that he wanted to be with a woman, and not just that, but that I was going to be that woman for him. So that obviously caused some pretty major tension. There were incidents like me wanting to leave, like trying to leave the house, binding underneath my clothes on days that I was particularly dysmorphic about my chest. And he would, the second that he looked at me and saw that my chest looked flatter than usual, he'd literally send me back into the house and make me get changed like a child. It was literally like being with an abusive parent. So there were things like that. He intentionally misgendered me on a daily basis. He refused to acknowledge that I wasn't female and never had been the entire time we'd been together. And never had been in general. He referred to me as things like a transtrender and implied that the only reason I wanted to transition was because a lot of my friends were. And he was just very, very invalidating. He literally threatened to leave me the second I started discussing physical or legal transition. And while I can't go into too many details because I do currently have a restraining order on him, I experienced a lot of physical and sexual abuse for essentially the entire duration of the relationship. So on, I think the 18th or something of July, mid-July in 2017, last year, I left. I required police presence, which was a very, very big deal as a queer person and a trans person for me to call the police, because I do not have a good... I do not have a lot of trust in them regarding how they often handle minority sort of members. And there was also the issue, like, my ex was a person of colour and was also himself queer. So calling the police on a person of colour is not something anyone should ever have to do unless there are very dire circumstances. And people quite often say, don't call the police on a person of colour unless you're okay with that person being killed. But it got to the point in that relationship that I was fearing for my life, and I needed to be able to leave safely, or as safely as possible. And that was honestly the only way that I could see that happening. So I packed all of my things, everything I owned, into the back of my little Mitsubishi Lancer, and I called my mother and I said, Mum, I'm coming home now. I need to leave now. And my mum, being the amazing person that she is, just said, fantastic, I will see you then. She was obviously worried, but her first response was just, I will be there for you and this is your home. So that's how I ended up down here. And one of the most painful things about that whole thing, aside from the abuse and having to leave all of that and having to go through court proceedings and pursue restraining orders, was that the day after I left, I was booked in for my first appointment with a trans-friendly doctor to begin my transition. And I obviously had to cancel it. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Probably on par with leaving that relationship. So I'm now down here, 300 kilometers away from pretty much everything. But I am able to get back to Perth with reasonable ease when I'm not working. And that's when I'm hoping I'll be able to book an appointment with the university doctor or one of, like, the one that I was discussing before. And we'll see where it goes from there. But thank you all for listening. This was, just a bit of background about my situation and how I ended up here. But thank you.